Hello and welcome to our next lecture. So in this lecture, we are going to learn about something called a Formik, and along with it, we'll also talk about Yup. So let's understand what is Formik. So Formik is a popular open source library for building and processing the form data in React applications. So we may face three major challenges as developers while working with HTML forms. The first one is we may face problems accessing the proper input values while the form is getting submitted at a specific form state. We may also face problems validating the values entered against each specific form element and generating error messages, if any, at that very moment. Formik has its inbuilt validation support. It can be integrated with the Yup, which is another library for schema-based validation. Another challenge we may face is to handle the submission of the form. So there are three major problems: accessing the values of the form, validating the values, and handling the submission of the form. To perform all these things seamlessly, we can think of using an amazing library called Formik that works perfectly with React.js. So there are two different ways we can install Formik. One is using npm install Formik -save or yarn add Formik. So either you can use npm or we can use yarn to install the Formik. So let's see how can we perform a basic form handling without Formik. So I'll open my command prompt, and from there I will create a new folder, React app Formik example, Formik Yup example. So let's pause our. Okay, so our project is created. So let's go inside. So this will create a basic React boilerplate code, and I can just go to app.js and I'll remove this line, and then I will just remove this header, and let me write some h1, write testing Formik with Yup. Okay, testing Formik with Yup, and that's all. Let's go to terminal and then let's try time loading, and from next onwards I guess it will be easy. So Formik testing Formik with Yup. Okay, so it's working now. First of all, I will create a folder called components, and just as a reminder or just as a mm, brush up, we will see how to do the basic form handling. How can we do a basic form handling? So I will create a component and I'll name it basic form handling .js or JSX, either way it's fine. So I'll use the shortcut and it will create basic form handling. So now I need to import use state from React, and what I can do is constant data and set data. We have already done it before, so no need to get confused what we are doing. So it just I'm just reminding, this is not even related to Formik and yeah, but I just wanted to show you what's the problem with uh, without Formik, and why do we need a special form library. So here I can create a form, and on submit I can write and handle submit. This is a custom method that we are going to create. Now label, so inside label we will write input, and then I can give a break because by default it's an inline element, and then I will write input text, input type text, and value. I give it some name, input value, and on change is handle change. So we have two custom methods, handle submit and handle change, and this there will be another break, and then after that I'll create a button, and that button is a type submit and submit, and once I click on the button, it will invoke this method, handle submit and handle change. So we need to define what is a handle submit and handle change. So already you can see everything we have to do by ourselves. There is no inbuilt methods, right? Set data equals to event dot target dot value, and then constant handle submit equals to event dot. This is to like prevent the further activities which are default activities by the form HTML form element. So we want to prevent to redirect to somewhere else. So it should be on the same page, console.log. So we'll give input. So we'll give data actually, right? So we will see on click of it, where does it go? Input values actually will be data. So now, so what we need to do, it's already exported, so we will import it in app.js. So we will import form, basic, and we'll bring here and now if I show you the output, you can see that there's an input, and if I type something hello, then when I submit I'm getting the value. So but just to perform this much only, we had to write so much of code. Right, this component is I'm writing of so much of code just to display a little bit data from the form submission. So how can we uh, modify this code using Formik? So we will do it in the next lecture. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned. Hello and welcome to the next part of Formik and Yup. So while the code that I have shown you in the previous video, it effectively handles the form input using React's built-in state management and event handling. There are several reasons why I might consider using Formik, or you might consider using Formik instead. The first thing is a validation. So Formik provides a built-in support for form validation, making it easier to validate form inputs according to specific requirements. With Formik, you can define validation schemas using Yup or custom validation functions, which simplifies the processing of handling complex validation logic. The next one is form state management. So managing the form state manually with React's use state hook can become cumbersome, especially for forms with multiple inputs or complex validation requirements. So Formik abstracts away much of the boilerplate code needed for managing the form state, reducing the amount of code you need to write and maintain. The next one is error handling. Formik automatically handles error display and management, making it easy to show validation errors to users in a consistent and user-friendly manner. With React's use state approach, you would need to manually track and display errors, which can be error-prone and time-consuming. Field level validation. Formik supports field level validation, allowing you to define validation rules for each individual field in the form. This level of granularity can be challenging to achieve React's use state approach, especially for larger forms with numerous inputs. The next one is integration with third-party libraries. Formik seamlessly integrates with popular libraries like Yup, like Material UI and Bootstrap for UI designing. This makes it easier to build sophisticated forms with rich user interfaces. Form submission handling. Formik simplifies form submission handling, including asynchronous submissions, by providing a unified on-submit handler that encapsulates the form data submission logic. This can help streamline the process of submitting form data and handling responses. While React's use state approach can be suitable for simple forms with minimal validation requirements, Formik offers a more comprehensive solution for managing form state, validation, error handling, and submission handling, especially for complex forms in larger applications. It provides a higher level of abstraction and convenience, reducing boilerplate code and improving developers' productivity. So form handling using Formik, it can be done in two different ways. Okay, there can be two main approaches by which we can handle the forms. Formik is a powerful library for handling forms in React. So the first approach involves using the Formik component. So we need to import the Formik components from Formik. So what are the components? They are Formik, form, field, error message, field array. So we can do most of our form handling work with these components. The another way is to use a use Formik hook, which makes the form handling much simplified to handle the state management. Let's dive into each approach and understand their implementation. Hello and welcome to our next lecture on Formik and Yup. So in this lecture, we are going to write a very simple form handling component using Formik. We will not use yup at this moment. We will use yup after some time when we will get more handy with using Formik. So, but before we write the code, we'll discuss about a couple of more things like what is comprehensive form management. So, Formik is an amazing library that works perfectly with React.js. It provides a comprehensive solution for managing the form state, validation, error handling, and submission handling. With Formik, developers can easily handle complex form logic and streamline the form development process. What is integration with YAP for schema based validation? So YAP is another library that can be integrated with Formik for schema based validation. By combining Formik with YAP, developers can define validation schemas and effortlessly handle form validation. YAP provides a simple and declarative way to validate form inputs and ensure data integrity. So we have seen the benefits of using a Formik in the previous slide. So it's a validation support with YAP, simplified form state management, error handling benefits, field level validation, integration with third-party libraries, and streamlining the form submission handling. So these are the benefits of using Formik with React.js. So there are two different ways to install Formik: npm install Formik and yarn add Formik. And now the approach one, in the first approach, we will use the first approach now, and we will see how to create a very simple component using Formik. So implementation of approach one. So first we need to create a functional component for form handling, and we need to import these elements: Formik, form, field, and error message. We can omit the field array for now. This is for dynamic form handling. We are not doing it. So inside the return statement of the form component, set up the structure. So wrap the form component inside a div element and place the component inside and then configure the attributes of the component, such as initial values and validate, and then we have to define this on submit method, uh, which is the render method with prop pattern. Okay, so let's see how does it work. And hello, so let's see a very simple example on how to create a component using Formik. So for that, let's open our VS Code and let me create basic formik.js, and we need to install Formik. npm install Formik. So this installation is done. So let me create the component is using the shorthand method. And the first thing, the step one, is to import these four components, which is one of them is Formik, the second one is form, the third one is field, and the fourth one is error message. And we need to import them from Formik. And once that is done, then the second step is we need to return an entire Formik inside. So for that we need to write Formik, and inside Formik, inside the opening tag of the Formik, we need to pass a bunch of attributes. So number one is initial values. That is the second part, and using JSX we will pass email, which is initially empty, and then password, which is initially empty, and then we also have to pass on submit method. And what this method is going to do, it will actually invoke a method with a parameter name called values, and that values we will be passing while populating the form. so that I'm going to print what values. That's it. That's what I'm doing in this component. Now this Formik, the opening tag is closed. Now before the closing tag, in between the two tags, we need to call the render method, which using the prop pattern. Means it is actually an anonymous function, okay, which is inside this double which is inside these curly brackets, and which has we are passing props as a props handle submit method, and there we will create the form, and this is the actual form that it will return. So I know it's a little bit confusing at the first time, but trust me, once you practice it a couple of times, it won't be that difficult. It is now, it is kind of similar to you know, the previous code. So in the form we have to pass the handle submit, and then there will be a label, and that label will have email. Then we have a field. The field will have email again and name. It's a self-closing. So I will copy paste these two, label and field, and I will just paste it here. So this is password, and the type is password, and the name is also password, and actually we need to okay, so then so we need to create the button for submission. So the button will have a type submit, just like the previous code, and then we will type here submit, and when we click the button it will automatically call the handle submit, which is against the event on submit, and the handle submit is like inbuilt in Formik, so we don't need to define that method, right? Because we have installed Formik already. Now if I try to export it, let's say if I try to export it in the app.js, so let's say let me import, sorry, if I try to import it, basic Formik, and let me comment my previous component, and let me put it here, and then if I start my server, so let's see what happens. So I have not yet implemented the error messages, my custom error messages. For that, I already imported the error message component, but I haven't used it. So let me pause it, and I'll start it after the server is started. Okay, so looks like the server has started, and let me check. Okay, so I'm getting this. Just for a better display, what I can do is I can put some breaks. So after every field, I'll put a break, and I'll put a break here. That's it. One more break. So now it is here. So if I click on submit now, and let me see in the console. If I click on submit, I'm getting empty, empty. So everything has been handled by Formik nicely. If I write hello, and if I write WhatsApp, then now if I submit, I think. I don't know why it's coming. Filled. So it is giving, I guess, its own validation. So let me write some xyz at ayz.com, and then if I submit, so now it is able to submit it. So it was, I haven't implemented my custom error, but the HTML form was doing its own error handling because the field the type is email, so it was not accepting my email. Now I can implement my own error message handling. So for that I will create error message, and it should be a self closing, and inside that I will give name equals to uh, email, so it will access with the same name, and then it will be component b, component equals to b. The same thing will be sorry, actually I put it in the wrong place. It will be just below this field, and another one will be just below this field, and here it will be password. So what does this mean is whenever there is an error, it will be displayed inside a separate div element. That's the meaning of this. So now if I go and if I run it now, say I run it, if I try to submit, so it is empty. And if I, now the reason why I'm not getting any custom error message is because we have not written any validate method. So there has to be a validate method that will take care of the custom message, so which we will see in the next video with a little bit more advanced coding. So there is nothing, no value as a error message to pass as an attribute to the error message component, which will be displayed by the error message. So that's the reason we are not seeing any custom error message. So it is, the component is working, but it doesn't have anything to display. So hope you understood the fundamental concept of how a Formik works with a Formik form field and error message component. So let's see the next one. Stay tuned. Thanks for watching.